and have a nice, civil, constructive, respectful conversation. What do you think about that, my friend?
Okay.
I think that's extremely unlikely.
Yo, what's up?
Okay, so apparently the story here is that Haz decided to he wanted to get on Vaush because I mean he's got all the good primed right-wing subjects in his chat to have a discussion with him, and he paid him $50 in order to do it, which is nice and pathetic. And then he was so reactionary, even Vaush decided he was too reactionary for Vaush.
Okay, Vaush, what's up? What's up? See, before we get into anything, I want to say, why don't we begin this by being respectful? Let's begin this being respectful. Infrared will show respect to people who show us respect. We can.
God. Infrared will show respect to people who give us respect. Well, yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that these two chuds have in common, it's how respectful they are.
And have a nice, civil, constructive, respectful conversation. What do you think about that, my friend?
Okay.
I think that's extremely unlikely.
I agree to those terms, but only after an initial period of disrespect, which I'll be.
Well, why initial? I mean, I got enough disrespect for both of you.
Begin by saying, why the fuck
you won't win,
are you?
But you won't win that fight. You don't
why
want to do
the
that
fuck
fight. You
are
don't
you
wanna do that fight.
spamming my Reddit and my chat? Debate infrared. What are you doing? Why are you spamming me?
Well, because he wants you to do exactly what you ended up doing, and that you are willing to fucking do. Oh, he the last I heard, he backed Muppet to the hilt. I mean, and the great thing is, I mean, Vaush is getting all precious about being spammed and stuff, but for $50, he actually took the fucking, he let him on the stream.
Why
I am not spamming you. That is the power of infrared's chat, my friend.
Oh, yeah, the power of infrared's chat. Yeah, I mean, which is so I love this. They deserve each other. I mean, apart from the beards and the complete ignorance on most subjects that they talk about, they both have chats that are made up of toxic assholes who will just harass anyone that either of them says they should go out and harass.
We are so powerful right now. You have 8K viewers, and I have 100 viewers, and our chat is more high energy than your chat.
Okay, like, what kind of flex is that?
I'm sorry to say, man, I can't control them. They're crazy out of control.
Yeah, I mean, this is the same sort of shit that Vaush said when American Johnson and Luna called him out on the fucking racist hate mobs that he sends to leftists of color who don't like fucking colonialism. Which, because Vaush loves colonialism and is just sort of a racist piece of shit. Yeah, I know, this is absolutely just hilarious.
We're wild, bro. We're
What the fuck is this? What is this, like the WWF here?
So fast, and we are the future of the left on YouTube.
And I'm
sorry.
Wait, okay, is this, when was this? Oh, okay. So, a while ago. Because in the Austin conference of the CPI, which preceded Queen Elizabeth into oblivion, he was talking about how he didn't want anything to do with the left. The left was, you know, a dead issue, and that the only people that he felt that he could work with were either political neophytes or on the right.
Control cringing, so it's, you know, it fits. That power, that energy, we're matching it. All right, let's do it. Hit me with your best arguments. You a tanky? That's what people say.
I'm 100% tanky, 100% Stalinist.
Except for the bit where you're also fascist.
%100% Maoist, Marxism, Leninism.
Wait, how the hell can you be 100% Stalinist and 100% Maoist, though?
In the age of multipolarity and the post-COVID world.
Wait, what post-COVID world? We're not in the post-COVID world. We're fucking deep in the COVID world. Especially, like, they're both in the U.S. It's like, it's the COVID capital of the planet.
Okay, hit me up. What? I assume you're familiar with some of my arguments.
I am
Yeah, well, okay, this should be
familiar
good.
with some of your arguments. So let's
Hit
see,
me up.
where do we want to begin? Let me paint a broad brush and let's capture a bunch of arguments in one argument.
Sure.
Your view of liberalism, which is also bundled up with your view of American unipolarity, your slander and demonization of Russia as a fascist power, your defense of American unipolar liberal world order against the specter of fascism. And then we can bridge that to your views on the Capitol Hill riots, your endorsement for voting for Biden.
Okay, see, this is great because these are all things that suck shit about Vaush. Like, every single thing that he's saying here is something that Vaush has actually said that sucks shit.
I want to weave these threads together.
Yeah, bring it all together. Synthesize.
Yeah, do some fucking seamstressing.
What's that?
Synthesize. Bring it all together. Engage in the dialectic. Take these differing
Yeah, like, okay, Vaush, shut the fuck up. You don't know what the dialectic is.
perspectives. Unify them. What do we got?
Precisely.
Well, I got it. Y'all suck.
Precisely.
What do you mean precisely? You said all that stuff and you didn't have a follow-up?
Okay. So as I'm familiar with your argument, okay, this is how I'm going to sum it up. Basically, your idea is that it's an arithmetic, right? Liberalism is greater than fascism, better than fascism. Then, therefore, socialists or communists should be pro-liberal against the fascists. Basically, that's your argument, right?
Yeah, I don't think that it's worthwhile to attack liberalism if the outcome of that attack would be a descent into fascism. I think.
Except the thing is, see, this is exactly where he just completely falls apart. Oh, well, one of the many places. He's just constantly falling apart at the seams when he tries to make any kind of political argument because he just doesn't know anything about this stuff. Because the thing is that liberalism paves the way to the descent into fascism. Fascists always come to power using the mechanisms of liberalism. They lay the groundwork. Sometimes they actually fail, and they need some help with some less classically liberal approaches. I mean, not in the sense of classical liberalism, to be clear. I just mean not necessarily what you would generally think of as the sort of liberal democratic approach to fascists taking power, but yeah, I mean, liberalism pretty much always paves the way.
I think that you need to ensure that your critiques of liberalism lead you to a better place, not a worse one.
Okay.
Well, okay, and see, and where I would disagree with Vaush on that is literally just that his critiques of liberalism lead us to a worse place. His critiques of liberalism, to the extent that he even has a critique of liberalism, because he is a fucking liberal, is always from the right. It is always reactionary.
Familiar with Hegel's master-slave dialectic?
I am familiar with Hegel's master-slave dialectic.
Yeah, no, you aren't. I mean, he's just saying that. It's like that episode of The Simpsons where Bart says he's familiar with the poetry of Pablo Neruda.
Okay, so it's a battle for recognition. What is the battle for recognition? What is its linchpin? It's a fight to see who is willing to die, right?
Sure. I mean, that's...
Two people go at it. Whoever's proving they have more balls, they're more willing to die, basically they win out. They become the
Okay.
master, right?
I'm not entirely sure if that's a faithful interpretation of the Hegelian concept, but where does your criticism lie?
Right?
What?
Fight to the death, right?
Sure.
It's about a fight for the death, proving your...
Okay, and first of all, Jesus Christ. And why are we even talking about Hegel in the first place? The whole thing with Hegel is that it was sort of annoying idealist bullshit. Just a whole lot of it.
Your life. It's the fight to the
for
death.
Who? Less allegorical. What's the criticism?
I'm telling you, politics is the same shit. You have some type of order. You have the state. You have the status quo. Whoever is willing to risk its death with the most courage and with an alternative vision When you're willing, if you're not willing to risk the death of the liberal order, then you prove your weakness, and then like Bernie did, then the fascists are gonna come and devour you, like how you're.
Okay, like, what? It's not about courage. I mean, yeah, I'm not saying that doesn't enter into it at all, but the idea that the entire sort of political judgment can be built around the willingness to risk death. I mean, that's already, we're already getting into pretty fashy territory right there.
Saying, but I even object to the view that Trump is a fascist, and that there is really a looming specter of fascism that's coming from the right-wing.
It's interesting. It's crazy how tankies tend to be like the most pro-fascist people that you'll find outside of fascism.
Oh, really?
Because if they acknowledge that Trump is fascist, they would implicitly.
The thing is that quite a few. Here's the thing. I mean, leaving aside the fact that liberals like Vaush have just turned the term tanky totally meaningless. I mean, it used to have a very specific meaning about people who stand the Soviet Union's invasion of Hungary and things like that. And now it just kind of is used to mean people liberals don't like. Like, people who acknowledge that U.S. imperialism exists. I've been called it just for pointing out that the U.S. is fucking imperialist. Or, but, yeah. The thing is that the other problem with this is it collapses everything because, like, the archetype that liberals have in their mind is their, like, very confused idea of what an ML is. And the result, you know, what a Marxist-Leninist is. And the thing is that they use it so broadly. When you start using it to describe guys like fucking Haz, like fucking Muppet, then you've actually decided to collapse it together with people who... Oh, hello, 007, oh boy. Yeah, he is totally fash. I mean, we were looking at one just a couple of weeks ago in stream here, where he manages to say in one sentence that National Socialism is a form of socialism, and that queer people are the equivalent of Ernst Röhm and the Sturmabteilung, while at the same time managing to get the name of the organization Ernst Röhm was in wrong, and get Ernst Röhm's name wrong. I mean, yeah, he's fascist as fuck.
Agree with the Democratic Party.
And welcome, 007, oh boy. I don't think I've seen you in here before. Nice to see you joining.
You seem to be supporting the Ukrainian fascists, and Alexei Navalny, who is close to being a Russian ethno-fascist.
Navalny, it's worth noting, is that thing. I mean, you look at what he's had to say about Chechens in particular. I mean, it's just straight up Nazi shit. And and the idea that he represents the Russian opposition is also complete nonsense. He has actually really tiny. I mean, his support is tiny. His support within Russia is very limited. His support outside of Russia, from like the media in the U.S. and the U.S. government, for example, is pretty significant. But his support, but you do not need to support somebody like Navalny in order to support opposition forces in Russia, because a lot of them hate him too.
And you called him a fucking civic nationalist. Why is Navalny a civic nationalist, but everyone else is a fascist?
Well, because Vaush will avoid calling people fascists if he likes them, even if they're fascists.
Everyone else. Well, fascists are fascists.
But why is Navalny a civic nationalist, but Trump is a fascist?
I mean, and the thing is, neither of them. I mean, Navalny isn't a civic nationalist. Navalny's Navalny's definitely fash, and Trump is close enough. It spends as much time facilitating the work of fascist groups that it really doesn't matter where he falls on some sort of technical definition of it.
None of them call themselves fascists, according to you. Navalny made a video
why would a fascist
Muslims,
call themselves a fascist?
Well, I mean, some fascists do call themselves a fascist because it's the thing they are. I mean, it's the same shit that we have in some, there's sometimes debates on this on the left. Like, said, do you want to use a name that has been you want to use a name that has been, like, demonized and has really bad, is a negative brand identity because of, or do you want to try to reclaim it? And you have fascists who want to reclaim the term fascism. In fact, in Italy in particular, yeah, there are a lot of people who will tell you fascism isn't even a dirty word. Like, the fascists there just call themselves fascists. It was that when the government controls capitalism, which is to say all capitalism. Now, the thing is, he doesn't know enough to understand that that's what that means, so he doesn't say that. But, I mean, in that sense, yeah, I mean, all capitalism is potentially transitional to fascism. I mean, that's true. How'd you find us, by the way? 007, oh boy. Always love to see new people in here.
The cockroaches who should be exterminated, and you call them a civic nationalist. Why is he a civic nationalist?
Why would a fascist call themselves a fascist?
Because they're that thing, you dickhead.
Wouldn't that kind of give the game away a little bit?
Okay.
Well, yeah, there are a lot of fascists who don't call themselves fascists. There are also fascists who call themselves fascists. It's like there are Nazis who will outright call themselves Nazis and run around with, like, fucking literal swastikas on them. And it just so happens, a lot of those are the people that Vaush is totally uncritical of in Ukraine. And there are plenty of them in Russia as well, it's worth noting, because the relationship with Russia is one of the major fault lines in international fascism. You got fascists who are pro-US, and you got fascists who are pro-Russia, and you got fascists who are militantly anti-Russia, because the main sort of axis of their form of whatever their local nationalism is just happens to be anti-Russian. So, I mean, and you've got people who will openly call themselves fascists and openly call themselves Nazis all over there. Aw, nice to know that my SEO is doing well. Yeah, Caleb Coppin, I like it.
Do you think Navalny's a fascist?
I think that Navalny has some very bad tendencies, but I think on the whole, he's better than Putin. I don't think he's a fascist.
Well, what does that mean? First of all, how is he better than Putin? I mean, what do you even know about his policies? I mean, I'm not saying I know a whole lot. I do know that he's just said some just genocidally racist stuff about Chechens. Although I have to say, that is not an entirely uncommon thing amongst Russians. I mean, I've had plenty of conversations. I mean, like, just general genocidal racism against Caucasian peoples, the peoples of the Caucasus, especially Chechens, because they, fought back. Most recently, is not entirely uncommon. Yeah. And, I mean, Moppin and fucking Haz are edging just little by little towards just openly calling themselves fascists. I mean, this guy, he...
Okay, wait. Putin, for all his problems and his social conservatism or whatever, which is what you're aiming at.
See, that gives the game away right there. Because what we're talking about is racism and homophobia and misogyny and anti-Semitism and just general fucking right-wing reactionary shit. But if you want to make that sound like it isn't horrible, you just say social conservatism, and then you don't even notice all of the fucking victims that it has.
Putin is not a racist. Navalny's a fucking racist.
Of course he's fucking racist. I mean, did you not, like... we're talking... we're forgetting about the period in which Putin was the one pounding Chechnya into the fucking ground?
Racist.
Okay, hold on. Let's wait. I don't even care to get into this. Do you want to roll back to, like, the substantial argument you have against...
substantial by Vaush's standards. That's like... what does either of them have for a substantial argument?
What we were talking about?
Yeah, it all goes back to the same thing. You're picking and choosing what is or isn't fascism, and
well, yeah. I mean, everybody does that. The question is whether the definition they're using in order to pick and choose those things is an actual fucking valid definition. His sucks shit. Haz's sucks shit. They both have completely invalid definitions that are just all about not calling the fascists they like fascists.
based on that, you're shilling for the liberal status quo,
What
which
is
actually
fascism? Tell me. What is
historically speaking, liberals, English liberal elites, are the ones who funded fascism. It was their pet fucking project.
what?
Well, actually, the English elites who were pro-fascist were definitely not liberal in any normal sense of the word. I mean, we're talking about the British aristocracy, who were all over who just were totally supporting fascism. People like the fucking royal family, like Viscount Rothermere, like I don't remember his real name, but Lord Haw Haw. I mean, the accent of fascism in Britain traditionally is a fucking cut glass Pathé Newsreel posh English accent. That, I mean, the aristocracy, like the people who think that feudalism really ought to be given another go, who actually would aren't convinced that feudalism has even ended because they're still fucking aristocrats.
What is
The real
fascism? Give me
enemy
a
of communism
definition.
has always been the liberal elites and the liberal world order.
Give me a definition of fascism, okay?
No, see, here's the thing with
Oh, well, no, give a definition, because I want to hear your definition, because we've heard his and it's terrible. Like, literally, when the state controls capitalism, that's fascism, and he doesn't even understand the full reach of a definition like that, because that's certainly that's just capitalism. The state always plays a fucking regulating role in capitalism, as a mediator between sectors of the capitalist class and between the capitalist class and the working class. That's how capitalism fucking works in the real world. So, like, that's all fascism then. And I don't actually, like, I would say it's actually closer to fascism than most of the proponents of that system would want to admit. But I wouldn't say it is fascism, because then the term loses all meaning.
with BreadTube, they see, we have a meme among our infrared people. We call your definition mongering the reduction of the meaning of words.
Definition mongering.
To more strings of words, the Anglo box.
I see.
What the fuck did he just say?
The reduction of the meaning of words to more strings of words, the Anglo box.
The reduction of the meaning of words to more strings of words, the Anglo box. Like, okay, so he's saying that being able to actually specify what you mean by the things you say is somehow a bad thing?
I see.
You think the meaning of words is premised by something someone wrote somewhere?
Defining a concept actually reduces the meaning. What is fascism
as a historical phenomena? What historical...
This is like the first time I've actually seen Vaush debate somebody in the Moppin orbit, where the person in the Moppin orbit doesn't actually look the better for it. Oh, Christ. Yeah, Blumenthal has been a serious disappointment. I remember when he was an actual fucking journalist and did really good work. I mean, he was, he was an annoying liberal whose analysis was just, bullshit liberalism. But at the very least, he was somebody who checked his sources, and when you checked his sources out, you could rely on him. They said the things that he said they say. And then, he just sort of gradually decided to end up, now he's just kind of full-on fash. Like, I mean, he's really on the team of don't do anything for COVID. Like, I mean, he was deriding New Zealand's extremely successful zero COVID policies, saying there shouldn't be any precautions being taken anywhere. No vaccines, no fucking non-pharmaceutical interventions, nothing. I mean, he's just really... Oh, well, I don't know, I think... It's like Ben Norton seems to try to distance himself from that aspect of it, and I don't know about Mate. I mean, but it's just really... it's like being in the Bill Clinton orbit. It's like there's nothing good that comes out of Bill Clinton's orbit.
historically has that word
I don't know.
referred to
I
in
think
concrete
you're a
terms?
fascist.
That's the
Don't ask me to
question.
define fascism, though. I think
Wait, yeah, don't ask him to define fascism because his definition sucks shit too.
you're a fascist.
Oh, well, I mean, he is one, but not because he thinks that capitalism should be regulated or whatever the fuck your bullshit definition was, Vaush. I mean, he is that thing. Yeah.
Why do you think I'm a fascist? You don't even know who I am. You've never
Oh, well, I mean, I know who you are, and that's why I think you're a fascist. I did a whole fucking video on
even
it.
heard of
Wait.
infrared. You're calling me a fascist?
How do I need to know who you are? If words don't need to have definitions, then just tell me who you are. That's
Jesus Christ, this is like, it's so weird. When you watch Vaush or fucking Inevitability debating these chuds, you know somebody who really does not deserve to look good is, at least for a moment, going to look good. And this is like the very first time I've ever heard Vaush dunk on somebody where Vaush actually was right. Oh god, Taibbi is terrible. I don't know if you saw the video. I did a close reading of Taibbi. If you look up Taibbi on my YouTube channel, 770 boy, you'll see I did that close reading of that Taibbi article where he's trying to exonerate the TERFs. I mean, that's another big. I mean, it's like he was he was a liberal, but at the very least, he had some worthwhile things to say about the global financial crisis back in about 2011, and it's just been downhill rapidly ever since. And then Brianna Joey Gray, whose whole thing is that, who decided to go off on one about how working with Nazis doesn't mean first trying to make them stop being Nazis. I mean, she's just, yeah. Ugh, God.
a fascist.
No,
yeah.
no.
This is what this reminds me of is the 2009 Checkers World. I mean, not Checkers. Fuck off. Cricket World Cup when Canada faced Kenya. Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah, you just brought it to mind, and I thought, hey, maybe plug something from the back catalog. You know, he that was just disgusting. It's like Canada faced Kenya, and it was like watching 300 ELOs play chess against each other. Like, the one side was bowling wides, the other side was managing not to hit them, or hitting their own wicket, or getting run out when the ball was in the hands of the wicketkeeper and the wicketkeeper was waving at them. It was like absolute comedy cricket. And this is like that. This is the guess the ELO of debate chud culture.
No. Words have sense. Words have meaning, but that meaning and that sense is not reducible to some formalistic, preemptive string of words that's written in a stone tablet.
Okay.
Wait a second. So words have meaning, but you can't actually say what the fucking word, what the meaning is? What the fuck is that? Like, what is... I mean, and he's used this line before, like when he was talking about how he doesn't want to hear about female sexuality because he like hates women. He went off on how you could not reduce sexuality to words. He says this about everything.
Then I can't reduce the reason why you're a fascist to a formalistic
where do you
definition.
think people writing the dictionaries get the fucking words from that they're defining the words from? They get it from actual reality.
Linguistic
if you're
fascism?
To reduce the meaning of words to another string of words.
Well, I mean, lexicography, the way lexicographers come up with the definitions of words in descriptive dictionaries is that they look at how they're used and they try to find a way of summarizing the meanings that they find them used in. And this is why reactionaries often get really pissed off about words that show up in the dictionary, because lexicographers are just pointing out the actual usages that they're finding when they look through corpus.
Then guess what? there's no meaning to words at all. Everything's just self-referential.
Yeah.
There has to be a bit of actual reality to give meaning to the fucking words.
I thought
Wait a second. There has to be a bit of actual reality to give meaning to the fucking words, but when somebody tries to express that reality as they see it, that's definition mongering. Like, seriously, dude.
you're a fascist.
That's
Don't
the
ask me to
question.
define fascism, though. I think you're a fascist.
Oh, well, I mean, he is. Yeah, I mean, he fucking is. But...
Why do you think I'm a fascist? You don't even know who I am. You've never even heard of
Wait,
infrared or climate.
Yeah, well, because you just have a vibe, dude. I mean, even Vaush.
Oh, wait, how do I need to
recognizes
know who
it.
you are? If words don't need to have definitions, then just tell me who you are. That's a fascist.
No,
yeah.
no. Words have sense, words have meaning, but that meaning and that sense is not reducible to some formalistic, preemptive string of words that's written in a stone tablet
Okay, then
somewhere.
Jesus. Okay, that, on the second viewing, it does not actually... Well, it holds up less.
can't
That's a
reduce the
ridiculous
reason
reduction of
I
human
can't
meaning
reduce the reason
to
why you're a
fucking dictionary.
fascist to a
Dude,
formalistic
where do you
definition.
think people writing the dictionaries get the fucking words from that they're defining the words from? They
Well, yeah, except the thing is, what they're actually doing there, they're defining the words. They're like finding they're actually providing definitions, because it's actually somewhat useful to clarify your terms when you're having a discussion, especially when they're terms where there are different interpretations. And we know that both of theirs are going to suck, but they suck in very different ways. Like, Haz has basically said that fascism is being gay, whereas fucking Vaush has said that it's when capitalism is regulated.
get it from actual reality.
Linguistic
if you're
fascism?
To reduce the meaning of words to another string of words, then guess what? There's no meaning to words at all. Everything's just self-referential.
Yeah.
There has to be a bit
No, everything's self-referential if you don't define shit.
of actual reality to give meaning to the fucking words.
I thought I was.
Let me tell you something else, Vosh. Let me tell you something else.
I
Vosh,
thought I
by
was
the way.
radical by being an
If what you're
epistemic
actually asking-
anti-realist, but you're.
No, you're not radical, and also an epistemic anti-realist. I mean, he's more sort of an epistemic agnosticist. He doesn't know shit, but he considers not knowing shit a source of knowledge. He's a conscientious objector to epistemology.
You're taking it to a whole nother level. You're like a grammatical subjective. You're like a grammatical solipsistic.
If what you are asking is for me to simplify.
Well, I mean, see, the one thing I don't like about this is that Vaush is enjoying this way too much. I mean, hopefully this cannot last. It must not last, because Vaush eventually banned him and all his, suckholes from the stream. So obviously he must have wiped this grin off of Vaush's face, because, I mean, he's just looking mighty punchable right now.
What I think fascism is, that's fine, but I'm not going to give you a definition that's going to hold for every possible context and every possible scenario. I think there's
well, yeah, probably because you haven't got one, because if you were to actually define it, you would in a way that was, general enough to cover everything that could reasonably be considered fascism. It would include a lot of your close friends, and actually, yeah, not you.
no fucking such thing. But if you want me to sum it up, I'll say this: fascism is a historical phenomena that was that emerged in the 20s and 30s, a period that was an objective social revolution in the forces of production and in politics. You had the New Deal, you had the British welfare state, you had the
Now, the British welfare state was not the 20s and 30s, you dickhead. British welfare state was actually in 1945. I mean, that's what they call it, the spirit of 45. And Ken Loach, did a documentary on it. Because what happened was, all these soldiers and sailors and airmen and everybody else come home from the war. They've had they've seen this mass mobilization of the economy for the purpose of the war. And they're rather keen to see that done in order to rebuild it and actually have something better afterwards. Since they just spent 6 years getting their asses shot off and having to, ration onions and shit. And the climate was actually so volatile at that point with all these returning soldiers that, and all these people who bombed the shit, that even the Tories were talking welfare state at that point. But I mean, the Tories got voted out. I mean, fucking Churchill, the first time after that he actually faced a general election, he was gone because people were just sick of the fucking Tories. They put up with them for the duration of the war, and then Attlee gets in, and you get the NHS and all that other stuff. But I mean, that people fought for that. But that wasn't the 20s and 30s, dude. That was the 40s. That was the post-war in Britain.
Social democracy, and then you had Soviet communism. All of these were united by the fact that there was some kind of objective social revolution defining the era. Fascism was specifically fascism. This is how it sum up fascism. Ready?
Okay, come on. I have a feeling, just because from what he's already started by saying, that this is going to end up being better than Vaush's bullshit definition.
Fascism is liberalism. Fascism is liberalism as it enters.
You don't get to laugh at this, Vaush. You don't get to fucking guffaw. Your definition of fascism is if you regulate capitalism. Like, you don't get to laugh at anyone else's. You have lost your purchase in the mocking universe.
Into a contradiction with itself. Fascism is the psychosis of liberalism.
Okay, that sucks. Okay, that I'm not sure. I can't decide, because the one, like, Vaush's definition of fascism is clear and precise enough that you can tell that it makes no fucking sense, whereas Haz's is so vague that it makes no fucking sense, because you just can't even tell what it's supposed to mean.
Psychosis of liberalism.
What is a fascist government
order,
like?
The liberal order.
Although the idea that fascism is the anything of fascism is an explicitly anti-liberal movement. In fact, I mean, part of one of the reasons there was this interesting article written by Joachim Prinz, a German Zionist and rabbi who actually managed to escape and live in the U.S. And he wrote some memoirs where he was talking about where German Zionism went wrong. And he was talking about why, in the Zionist movement in Germany, they actually thought that maybe the Nazis were potential allies. And one of the things he says is, the Nazis were against liberalism, well, so were we. Because, like, explicitly, liberalism was a fucking hate figure of early fascism. It's like if current fascism too, even though they are coy about some of these things. Hating liberalism as an ideology, is very much a fascist thing. It is not the psychosis of liberalism, whatever the hell that means. I mean, it is the demise of liberalism that is often facilitated by liberalism. It's basically capitalism minus all the liberal stuff, which is, how capitalism gets when the capitalist class gets nervous.
Of the 19th century and liberal democracy objectively collapsed in this period of the 20s and the 30s.
So what is a fascist government like? Like, give me some characteristics,
You don't get to be professorial, Vaush. We've heard your definition. You couldn't give any characteristics. You gave characteristics that were just characteristics of capitalism as a whole. Jesus. Okay, I'm glad that I decided to do this. This is fucking content.
You just look at the example of most of these things are on the surface, Vaush. Nazi Germany called itself fascist, so did Italy.
No,
so it's kind of something on the.
Well, no, technically, Nazi Germany called itself National Socialist. They considered themselves to be allied with the national, to be germane. That's not the right word either. Like kindred spirits of, say, national syndicalism in Spain, in fascist Spain, and OG fascism in fucking Italy. But they didn't so much call themselves fascists. Actually, I mean, German communists called them fascists.
the surface.
So
Look
give
at
me
those
some
governments.
characteristics. Like give me like some characteristics. Like what I'm looking at a fascist government. What does it look like? Paint a picture for me.
So Nazi Germany.
I don't want to see. Yeah, I don't want to see what happens when you give Haz figure
In
paint.
Italy, you want me to paint a picture of those
Yeah,
governments?
well, no, not just those two, but fascism in general, because those
You're
aren't the
trying
only.
to create an abstraction that doesn't actually exist in reality, but is some kind of something that exists in thin air.
Wait, hold on, wait,
There's
hold on.
Well, no, you see, this is the thing. I mean, he's just trying to avoid defining his terms, but the thing is, when you talk about, yeah, of course, a definition is always going to be imprecise. Somewhat. There's always going to be some imprecision. But the point is, in order for a thing to even be a thing, there must be certain characteristics that are observable in each instance of that thing. For example, I can define a debate bro. It's an ignorant reactionary dickhead who's on the internet, streaming, and argues with people that they think will make them look actually clever when in fact they aren't. I mean, there we go. I've just defined every fucking debate bro.
Just to be wait, really quick. Just to be super clear, you are creating an abstraction. I'm asking you to dispel it.
You believe that there's some abstract criterion.
Well, no, I mean they're both abstractions. Like even if I come up with a set of sort of unifying characteristics of fascism, that's still an abstraction. The whole thing, every bit of it, it's abstractions all the way down.
It's an eternal platonic idea or some shit that's actually manifesting
you know what
itself
these words
in reality.
mean? Are you?
No, this is one thing you have in common. You should have playdates. In fact, have more of them and stream them so that because I will never run out of content.
Aware of what any of the words you're using mean?
Well, you aren't.
You realize by asking for a set. Wait. By asking for a set of characteristics.
Listen, Vaush.
Wait, hold on. I'm just gonna mute you really quick.
Jesus, does he know where his camera is? What the hell is he yelling at? Is he yelling at the screen? I guess, and the camera is looking away from the screen. Does he understand about the camera?
Talking about.
Okay, I'll wait. So, he's still talking.
Chat?
We can wait. That's okay. I'll just talk to Chad for a while. Hey, what's up, guys? I don't mind the yelling. It has to be back and forth. It can't just be one way, or it's not fun.
Yeah, well, see, I'm enjoying the whole thing, to be honest. I'm enjoying the whole thing. I want to see more of this. God, he's got fucking pictures of himself hanging up.
It has to be back and forth. We'll wait for a bit. I think he stopped talking. Okay, you here, dude?
And here's the thing. If this were the only thing that I had ever seen of Haz, I would be inclined to think that he is as fucking pig shit ignorant as Vaush. But there are subjects it turns out he actually does know something about. Like, I on this stream, I actually was, ended up, it was another debate thing, him and Aristocracy and a bunch of people. And when he talked about the subject of international law, he clearly actually had a tolerable grasp on what he was talking about. Like, there was not a whole lot. It was actually kind of weird. I never would have, if I had gone by that, I would be utterly surprised by everything else in the Haz genre. Because he actually fucking knew what he was talking about. On that one subject, it's like the only subject where there's any sign of him knowing anything about what he's talking about.
Okay, cool. So
Vaush, on the other hand, doesn't know what he's talking about on anything.
Okay, I've unmuted you. So this is only fun for me if it's like a little back and forth. I'll give you like 70-30. You can take the 70, but I gotta get at least 30. You gotta give me a little, okay?
30. What's your 30? Tell me your 30.
Yeah, okay. I was just gonna ask a couple of questions. I'm a question asker. So first of all, my question.
No, well, I mean, mostly you just sort of lie and start fucking racist hate mobs on people. But okay, we'll call that just asking questions.
Question is, and this is important. Do you have any idea what any of these words mean? Because saying that I'm trying to invoke an abstraction by asking you for concrete definitions of what fascist governments look like.
Well, it's a more concrete definition. A definition is always an abstraction. Now, what he's asking for is definitely more concrete than whatever the hell the psychosis of liberalism means is. That is, I mean, but it's still an abstraction. It's all abstractions. The minute you start trying to come up with a definition that covers all cases, there is a certain amount of abstraction going on. That's just necessary in the world of definitions. The test of whether a definition's good is whether that abstraction allows you to correctly identify the thing when you see it, and doesn't include a whole lot of things that aren't that thing.
This is the opposite of an abstraction.
Tell me what's so concrete about this definition you're asking for.
Well,
There's nothing concrete about it.
Well, I mean, as opposed to the wonderful concreteness of fucking the psychosis of liberalism.
I'm not giving you your answer.
Something in actual reality. You're asking me to locate a string of words that applies to every single circumstance in every possible fucking way.
Damn,
Listen.
No, we're looking for a string of words that identifies like fucking shared characteristics of all things that can be called fascism. That's not, I mean, that's not everything. That's not the fucking set of all sets. It's a pretty basic question. It's one that Vaush can't answer either, which is why he's being so fucking coy and loving the fact that he's the one asking rather than the one being asked to provide a definition. Because I think he realizes just how bad that's gone for him. But
Let me tell you something. Isn't it?
You're not asking for truth. You're just asking for words to describe the truth.
Isn't it okay? Vaush, for example, isn't it kind of curious that if you define fascism preemptively in the way you're saying, you can fucking apply it to the Soviet Union, to China, to North Korea, to communist states as well?
Wait, okay, so that's interesting, because this is not the first time that he's taken this route. I mean, actually, chronologically, it may well be the first time. I'm not sure. That other thing, that Ask Me Anything video, I'm not sure if that was before this or after this, but you may remember, he said in that video that National Socialism, fucking Nazism, was a form of socialism. And now here he is saying that you can't come up with a definition of fascism that does not include, that would not also encompass the Marxist-Leninist states and the DPRK. Now, isn't that... I mean, I'm not strictly agreeing with that. I think it is possible to come up with a definition that would be tolerably accurate that didn't include those. Although it's worth noting that there was a German anarchist in the 30s, Otto Rühle, who saw it quite differently. He said, actually, that you could... A tolerably accurate definition of fascism did kind of include the Soviet Union, and C.L.R. James, writing not long thereafter in the 1940s, actually wrote a really tightly argued piece called Russia, a Fascist State, where he also makes the point that you can't really look at Stalinism in particular. He was looking at Russia under Stalin at the time, and come up with a definition of fascism that isn't going to include that unless you were to do some kind of special pleading. That's his argument. I mean, I think it's actually not a bad... it wasn't a bad argument. It isn't something you can dismiss out of hand. So I'm not saying that that's necessarily strictly wrong, but or right here. I think I can kind of see both sides of that. And I think it depends very much on what particular time and which particular place and iteration of these things we're looking at. But I find it very interesting that a guy who cosplays as a Marxist-Leninist, every time he's asked to provide definitions that would potentially distinguish the ideology that he cosplays from fascism, ends up saying something that basically says that they're if not the same thing, at the very least in the same ballpark.
That is kind of curious, isn't it? Really makes you wonder.
It is
curious.
You want to know why? Because you're prejudiced by Anglo-Saxon liberalism, according to which everything outside of liberalism equals fascism. That's why you call every non-Western,
Oh, well, I mean, and yeah, that's a fair call out, actually, I have to say, because he is just a liberal, and he does kind of, when he's actually like, I mean, one of the most embarrassing things, and it actually the reason this made Caleb Muppet look so much fucking better than he has any right to look. He just instead of actually trying to explain why Muppet is a fascist, or at the very least fash adjacent, he just kept on calling him one and saying, you know, oh, well, you just are one and stuff. And then eventually, I think that's when he also went and said something about fucking how fascism is when the state regulates capitalism or whatever the hell. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's not a bad description of the problem with Vaush. He really does not know what fascism is because he doesn't really know much of anything, and he is looking at everything through liberalism, even though he has occasionally pretended to be a fucking anarchist, even though he very clearly is not one, and does not have the slightest idea what that thing even means.
Non-Anglo-Saxon white person.
You must think very little of socialism if you think socialism has to meet the definition of fascism.
Well, I mean, God, this is the thing about this argument here is that it is necessarily going to be a case of worst person you know has a good point, because yeah, I mean that's fucking true. It is utterly telling that Haz doesn't want to get into discussions about fascism and what it is, and explicitly says the reason he doesn't want to get into those discussions is that he can't think of a definition of fascism that wouldn't include socialism as he understands it and as he supports it.
In my fucking voice, I'm an Arab, and you called me a fascist because you're a fucking racist. You're a Western chauvinist, right?
Well, I mean, yes, he is a racist. He is a Western chauvinist. Those things, he definitely is those things. But that's not. I mean, and maybe that is why he calls you a fascist. But the thing is, you also are that thing.
No, I don't see race. I just assumed that you were an ape.
Yeah, see, the thing is, he says that, and like some people who are naive and don't know him well will think that that's like some sort of joke. He's making a joke at the expense of racists. This is actually where he is. I mean, this is the guy who actually goes off on one about fucking white genocide and reverse racism and all this shit. And then somehow people still think that he is somehow on the left.
You don't, but you believe in American unipolar imperialism and the American boot that's down on the fucking necks of the peoples of the world.
Are you engaging
in the name of defending against fascism
in liberal identity politics right now?
Oh, shut the fuck up, Vaush. I mean, it's like
of world anti-imperialism, of being fascist, and you slander them on this basis. What a despicable thing, Vaush.
Are you engaging in liberal identity politics right now? Hey, you said that.
Okay, now I'm kind of curious to hear his answer to this. Because, I mean, it's like, it's bullshit. Because pointing out that Vaush is racist, he is racist. He's extremely racist. He's an absolute, I mean, just look at the horrible shit he did to fucking Professor Flowers, and you can see just how fucking racist he is. So, I mean, that's kind of a fair thing to point out, but on the other hand...
Hold on, wait, I'm getting it now. You said that liberalism is, when it meets a contradiction, it becomes fascism. And you, despite... Wait, hold on. Wait, I need to mute you because I'm on a brain blast right now. So, you...
God, a brain blast. Fuck off. I don't think you would actually need to get out the PPE in order to protect your eyes from one of his brain blasts.
That you are not a liberal, but you're engaging in liberal identity politics. So there's a contradiction there. So you're a liberal engaging in a contradiction. You're a fascist, bro. Now I know. Thank you. You provided me the
Well, see, what he's done here, and this is actually very kind of interesting, worthwhile as an insight into the sort of technique that he has popularized. I mean, other people in his like orbit do it as well. Which is he has avoided ever really nailing himself down on anything. So it is basically impossible to raise any actual objection to anything he's saying, to any of his arguments, because he hasn't made any. He's just letting fucking Haz run off at the mouth incessantly, and of course Haz is happy to run off at the mouth incessantly. It's kind of his thing. And he just sort of stands there and sort of chuckles.
Definition through showing, not telling. I appreciate
guess
that.
what, dumbass? Vosh, you muted me because you know I'm going to demolish you when you
No, it's because I wanted to preserve
Oh, God.
the structure of the joke. You were going to interrupt the punchline. You're not muted right now. You're not muted.
Am I unmuted?
You're unmuted, but you were going to ruin the punchline because you.
Let me respond to that.
This is what I mean.
First of all, the idea that you need to be a liberal to recognize Anglo-Saxon chauvinism and white supremacy is a joke. It's only.
Well, if you can recognize white supremacy so well, why is it you're hanging around with so many white supremacists? Is that because you like white supremacism?
Almost quite the contrary, actually. Oftentimes, what you're calling liberal identity politics is actually a vehicle for Anglo-Saxon chauvinism.
Sounds pretty liberal to me, dude.
To disguise itself in
You're a fucking liberal, Vaush. You don't get to use liberal as a pejorative.
Opportunistic terms. Second of all, this is
Are you still with her?
Issue. This is my issue with your definition mongering, Vaush. And you know when you let me
definition mongering. God, what a fucking term that is.
You speak, I'm gonna beat you. You are demolished. You are wrecked. I am beating you right now. Chat.
I mean, there's like not a scratch on him, dude. This is Canada versus Kenya in the 2009 Cricket World Cup. The one side can't hit the ball, the other side can't bowl the ball. The one side can't like actually manage to get somebody out. The other side manages to get run out anyway because they don't know when not to run. I mean, this is what this is. Like, the only reason he's laughing, okay, because Haz just kind of like goes off on one immediately apropos of nothing. And this is like, that's Vaush's entire fucking style, is to just sit there. I mean, and it's something like, it's interesting to see this being done to men, because it's something that men in particular love to do to women. You know, you just be absolutely maddening, you know, do something that is absolutely going to drive her up the wall, and then you sort of just talk, oh, it seems like there's a bit of anger in the room right now. Is that something you'd like to talk about? Maybe you need to be, we should probably adjourn this discussion until you can be a bit more reasonable about it, don't you think so? And you do that, and the other person just goes into a fucking, you know, explosion, and that's the whole point. And then you sit there and you get to sort of like chuckle softly and act like you're being the reasonable one, even though you have actually created the conditions quite deliberately in which somebody else is melting down. That's all he does. That's his entire style. The trouble is that Haz is totally just extremely vulnerable to it, because he doesn't need a foil to go off on one. He doesn't need somebody to like trigger an explosion of bullshit. He just does it anyway. That's just his whole thing. So I mean, there was no way that he could possibly come out of this.
Witness the downfall of.
Were you a big Obama fan? I'm hearing a lot of hope and change in your voice.
Let's continue. I told you.
Like, I mean, see, this is an absolutely pointless thing. All he's trying to do there is get him riled up. That is literally the whole thing. There's absolutely nothing substantive in any of that. Although, also, Vaush is so politically illiterate that maybe he actually doesn't understand. Maybe he actually thinks that what he's saying is true. I mean, I wouldn't be completely shocked by that.
Fascism is liberalism psychosis, and you said
yeah, you said that once, and it hasn't stopped. So it's like a Dyson. It's like a Dyson definition. The definition designed by that Tory donor asshole. Because no matter, every time you turn it on, it sucks more.
This must be an alternative. Every time there's any type of possible what I qualify as a contradiction, that must mean that you're a fan. You're trying to see. This is how you fucking breadtube Destiny. Fucking.
Are you breadtube Destiny? What? Okay. Breadtube is now a verb. You're breadtubing Destiny. And also, I mean, the idea that Destiny. I mean, they're really kind of riding this notion that breadtube. First of all, is it like an actual fucking organized entity, a hierarchical entity, and also the idea that, I mean, it's debatable whether you could actually say Vaush is in it. Like, I mean, you have to really just ignore any political aspect of it, any ideological aspect to put him in there. But, I mean, Destiny just hates the online left in general.
B tier Destiny fucking YouTubers and content creators, you just
Yeah. Well, I mean, what tier are you then?
copied off of Destiny's
B
fucking
for
style.
big dick. Ha!
Oh, shut the fuck up.
Listen.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, he is a big prick. I mean, I'll give him that.
Listen, Destiny's whole fucking axiomatic, systemic, whatever fucking thing, you're trying to make that compatible with socialism. Destiny is actually right when he's debating all of you fucking people.
Okay, this is a very telling thing.
He's actually the consistent one.
Sounds pretty liberal.
You're trying to mingle in Marxism and socialism, all this kind of shit with that, and
What, mingling in Marxism and socialism with what? Like defining things? I mean, abstract definitions were something that Marx actually quite liked. I mean, as CLR James pointed out in the article "Russia a Fascist State" I mentioned not too long ago, he says one of the best things about Marx is his abstract definitions, and it's true. I mean, he comes up with very good, very durable sorts of definitions that can actually hold fairly well, while at the same time being flexible to cover a whole lot of different instances of the same concept that he's trying to define. I mean, he's a pretty good provider of abstract definitions.
He's just the more fucking consistent one.
Hey, guys.
That's why he wrecks all of you breadtube people in fucking debates.
Guys.
He's really telling on himself when he says fucking inevitability. Apparently, you're not allowed to mention him on Twitch. I don't know. I've mentioned him like several times, not even knowing that. So maybe that's not true. Maybe I fucking don't know. Maybe I'm just not visible enough for anyone to notice. But yeah. Anyway, the fact that he thinks that Destiny actually is the one who wins those debates just by, he's an asshole, basically. And also refuses to engage with any of people's actual arguments. I don't think that. I think he's telling on himself when he looks at that and thinks that Destiny came out ahead.
Whenever I watch a debate between you guys and Destiny, Destiny's always won.
Am I right or wrong? Or is the English language derivative of Eurocentric colonialism? Is this motherfucker speaking English at me right now?
Oh, fuck off.
Is that unironically what this so-called socialist is doing?
This is the fucking point, Vaush. The reason you defend child pornography is...
Wait. See, you should have gone with that earlier. Because A, it's true, and B, he has never had a good answer, and all he's ever been able to do is lie about it.
You don't understand that meaning? That meaning can't be reducible in this robotic, mechanical fucking way to more strings of...
What the fuck did that have to do with pointing out that he defends nonsense?
Words. So based on this abstract robotic arithmetic of yours, you found equivalences to lead you to the conclusion that actually there's nothing wrong with holding child pornography because you...
Well, okay. Oh, no wonder fucking Vaush decided not to let him back on. Because up until now, the eval bar was, like, probably about 10.3 in favor of Vaush. But, I think that we're seeing a sudden shift to equalization here.
You know what? You're actually having computers from the middle of Central Africa. Therefore, I can say a sociopathic, completely antisocial, fucking anti-human thing.
I don't speak colonizer. I don't know what you're saying, dude.
Oh, fuck you. He has no good response to this, so he just comes up with that bullshit.
I'm losing it.
Is that what meaning means to you? You lost, Vaush. You lost. It's a wrap. I won Vaush's chat. I just beat your fucking daddy. How does it feel? How does it feel? How does it feel? Infrared is rising. How does it feel? Tell me how it feels, Vaush.
I don't think infrared is rising, but let's see how he...
It feels like I'm cringing and it hurts, so I think you...
Oh, okay, I'm there for it. I want to see Vaush hurting.
You are winning, actually. Hold on,
Vaush. Infrared. You just made us fucking viral. You propelled us into the stratosphere by letting me on. You don't know where we came from, Vaush.
Alright, that's enough.
Jesus Christ, I mean, he is really... he thinks very highly of himself. I mean, you get that much. I mean, what is he, a boxing promoter? A WWF promoter or some shit?
That was fun for about... That was fun up until the last minute, I'd say.
Yeah, the last minute where he fucking owned you by pointing out. He just absolutely ripped the piss out of you. Okay, that's good, because it's like, on the one hand, you want to see Haz get completely humiliated, which he does on his own without any help from anyone. But you don't want to see Vaush escape unscathed either. And so we got a little bit of everything in this. And now I see why Vaush doesn't want to let this guy back on.
Actually. Alright, well, we had our fun. This is a troll? Kind of hard to tell, you know?
What do you mean, kind of hard to tell? Yes, it's a fucking troll.
Some people are just like that. I can't believe I got paid $200 for that. Can you believe it?
Well, I thought it was $50. $200? Shit. I know. This is beautiful. I mean, this is guess the ELO between 2 300s.
Can't believe that guy was speaking a Eurocentric colonialist language at me. Whew.
Ah, shit. My headphone's cutting out.
Eesh. That's it's a pretty yikes right there. That was worse than
now it's pretty yikesy. It was okay at the when he was saying all that fashy shit, but then he pointed out the quite accurate statement that you defended child porn, Vaush, and suddenly the fun is over.
Yeah, maybe. Shouldn't take it too seriously. I'm glad that the internet is full of people like that. Probably a troll though. That guy really did sound like John Zerka though. You guys know who John Zerka is? He's a Twitch streamer. I actually think he's a cool guy. I think he follows me. But John Zerka is like this. I think he jumped on Twitch and started troll.
Is that Haz's real name?
Like arguing in favor of flat Earth or something like that. Anyway, he does like the Chad life, whatever. But
fuck.
His voice sounds very, very similar. You totally lose. Yeah, I got blown out there. Whew.
Well, yes, you both did. I mean, it was amazing because neither of you had any ammunition, and yet you both ended up you both ended up getting fucked up in the end.
I got blown out volume-wise, at least. That was Cancer Vosh. I'm genuinely in pain. How much do I have to pay for this sadism? Well, that's the thing. That's the unfairness right there. I get paid to suffer. You guys don't. You just watch. You don't get...
Yeah, I know. We don't get paid to watch your bullshit, Vosh. You should be paying us.
Paid to suffer. You just... watch it all happen.
In fact, you should be paying all the people you send fucking hate mobs after.
You know? Deeply, deeply unfair. Why didn't you bring up Assad?
Yes. I mean, no argument here. He is totally right. It is utterly unfair that he makes money being a complete asshole and we don't get paid in order to witness it.
Would have been a great time. Do you think there was any possibility to bring up any topic of conversation at any point? We didn't even get to a... not only did we not get to an argument...
Wait a second. I guess he's muted, but he's talking to his chat now?
We didn't even get to a premise setting up an argument. We didn't even get to begin with, okay?
Okay, and that is perfect timing because it is just after 1. And it is time for me to wrap up. I may be switching over to hyperpolyglotting to continue my Duolingo stream and have some language-related chatting, but I haven't entirely decided. But keep an eye open. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I am so glad that I think it was the Moppin Archive who sent me that on Twitter. And I am so glad they did, because that was fucking classic. I mean, that was just off the fucking hook. And I am there for it.